Morning, everybody. Hope you have a great day. Today, we're going to talk about the 6 of the 13 principles of our belief system, according to Maimonides. And the sixth one is the belief that God communicates with people through prophecy. Now, what is prophecy? What's it all about? Let's try to understand why God set up this system. Well, first of all, let's go back to what we started to talk about in the beginning of this whole Back to Basics course about the covenant that we have with God. And God has a covenant with us. And part of that is to keep guiding us in the right direction and let the Jewish people know what he wants in any particular generation at any particular time. So the idea of prophecy is very simple. It's the idea that God's creation of this world, creation of the Jewish people as a light amongst the nations, didn't stop at Mount Sinai. And it continues in the sense that God gave us prophets which guide the Jewish people and deal with very real situations, which of course the prophets dealt with for centuries. What does it mean to be a prophet? How do you bridge finite and infinite? So let's talk about that a little bit. First of all, purpose of everything in this world is to be a conduit for God to be able to work through in order to be able to put this whole package together of a world of a creation and a creation with a purpose. So even inanimate things, animals, plants, humans, we to a certain degree all carry out that purpose. Now, those parts of God's creation that don't have any free choice, they do it just because that's naturally the way they're programmed. That's part of their DNA. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do, and they're carrying out God's will, so to say, as far as what their role is in this world, without any question. People are the only ones who, so to say, have free choice. But we have no idea really from the get-go what our purpose is. And we were made that way. And it was deliberately hidden from us, so to say, in order to be able to help us to strive to deal with life's real issues and fulfill our purpose through free choice, which is a discussion we'll get into eventually. However, there are certain people who do reach that state of what we call total bittul, total nullification to God, where they become a true conduit for being able to carry out God's will, and so much so that they become a Navi, a prophet. Now, it's not that you become a Navi just by working hard at it. In the Nevi'im, the prophets, God chose people who had reached certain stages in their life or their development or their souls or how God and why God chose them, we don't know. But they were chosen to be that mouthpiece, to be able to bring God's message to the world. God didn't want to force his situation, force his hand, but wanted that there should be people who should continue this covenant and make it clear to the Jewish people what the covenant is all about and how it relates to them in any particular situation. So some people might question, how do you take a finite being and have an infinite force come into them to speak? Well, it's not simple, but I want to try to explain it as best as possible, as best as I can. I think we spoke about also how God, as infinite as God is, God's being finite as well is not a limitation on his being infinite. In fact, to the contrary, it says in Kabbalah that if you take away God's ability to be finite, you're taking away part of his overall wholeness of being infinite. In other words, true infinity is not an infinity that negates being finite. True infinity is an infinity that includes being finite. If it's truly limitless, it can be anywhere, in anything, do anything, and coming down into a finite world is really not a problem for an infinite God. In fact, to the contrary, according to Chassidus and according to what we've discussed here in this course, basically, excuse me, when we say that the world is finite, doesn't mean that it's finite with limits. It means that there's really an infinite force that is everywhere. Everything you see, everything you experience in your body, in your mouth, in your tongue, in your teeth, it's everywhere, except that it's hidden in a form of being finite for purposes which we discuss a little bit and which we're going to discuss more about. But that means that a human being, by definition, is really very much connected to the infinite. And it's just a matter of taking away a little bit of that veil that prevents us from having that ultimate connection as a prophet does. And that's what makes the difference between us and a true prophet. A prophet is a person who is truly a conduit, who God has chosen to be able to communicate needed and important teachings, ideas, directives, guidelines, in order that the Jewish people should be able to better fulfill the covenant that we have with God. And that's a position that very few men and women over the course of history have held. The Rambam Maimonides also states in another book, not this book, about the principles of faith or about the laws of Judaism, he states that at the end of days, before Mashiach comes, the power of prophecy will return to humankind. And that's a very powerful statement that Maimonides makes. And all I can tell you from personal experience is I've seen that, as have thousands and hundreds of thousands of others. I've seen that in the Lubavitcher Rebbe, how many times the Rebbe predicted something and prophesied something, and it came true. And never was there a time that the Rebbe did predict something that it did not come true. And it was an amazing experience to be able to witness that on a regular basis. So we're going to wrap up today. Next, we're going to study the seventh principle of faith, which is a belief in the primacy of the prophecy of Moses by teacher. What role did Moshe Rabbeinu have? And what did he bring to the table? And why was he considered to be the head of all prophets? Have a great day, enjoy, and hopefully by tomorrow my voice will be much better. All the best.